Everyone. Today we hold another in our series of webinars on how agriculture is transforming Ukraine. We have invited to our webinar today our distinguished speakers who together with us, the lawyers of CMS, will present today the key highlights how agriculture is transforming Ukraine and what to expect in this season and in the next season, and how Ukrainian agriculture will basically perform in the coming years. As everybody knows, Ukraine is an agricultural powerhouse. Ukraine today actually feeds around 150 million people with its grains, and Ukrainian agriculture amounts to more than 40% of export proceeds of Ukraine as a country. So this is a very significant part of Ukraine's economy, which contributes to many activities in Ukraine, to farming, to processing industries, to various types of industries in Ukraine. So today we are going to speak about Ukraine's role in the on the global map of agricultural sector. We will also look at the seasonal outlook, and we will give a snapshot of recent activities in the sector, what financing opportunities exist for farmers, for traders, and for other participants in the market. And we will also speak about land reform, which is the key feature of Ukraine these days, which was expected for nearly 30 years, and finally it is happening. Even today, as you know, the Constitutional Court of Ukraine is planning to review the constitutionality of land reform, and obviously we are all hoping that this will happen, and that Ukraine will finally have a clear market economy in the land sector. So with this brief introduction, I will present our speakers today. So we will have today Volodymyr Gumenyuk, who will speak, the co-founder of Barva Invest, who will speak about Ukraine's role as an agricultural powerhouse and what products and what specific ideas exist for development of agriculture in Ukraine. Then Olena Zoryanova, an independent trader, a well-known trader, will speak about the current season and what to expect, which products are trading in the market, and what will be the trends in the market. After this, Natalia Kushniruk, our partner in real estate and construction, will describe what land reform means for investors and what are the key features of the land reform and how this market will develop and what pricing to expect from for investors into the land market of Ukraine. And Orest Matvichuk will speak about financing opportunities and structures available for financing land acquisitions and for trade finance in Ukraine, what has been tested, what works, what doesn't work, and all similar issues. And of course, myself, Igor Olohov, I will moderate the discussion today and will ask our speakers questions. And of course, I welcome everybody to pose us questions as we speak, so that our discussion becomes as much interactive as possible, and we address all the interests of many speakers which we have today. So now I will pass the floor to Volodymyr to make his presentation. Volodymyr.
Thank you, Igor. Let me share the screen. 1 second. Can you see it?
Yes, we can see your presentation.
Okay, great. So first of all, let me introduce myself and my team. So I'm a co-founder of a consultancy agency. We are farm marketing consultants, which is pretty new business in Ukraine. And we have compiled a team of highly educated and highly experienced professionals, which is 4 experienced traders with 10 to 20 years of trading experience in different trading houses across the market, and 5 analysts, research specialists who are preparing all the information we need to make a good service to our clients who are big agri holdings in Ukraine. So our main business is that we are being hired by large agri holdings to help them to market their goods in a right way, in a right time, opportunities on this market. So let me start with PPT slides. First, just a couple of words on macro side. Basically, what Igor has already said, Ukraine, the share of agriculture and Ukrainian export receipts is extremely high. So basically, that's for you to understand what how important the egg export market is for Ukraine. So we, in 2019, in Q1, it was 43% of the total receipts, and 2018 it was 38%. Basically, the share is getting larger because the production is growing, and that's an item to understand. Next slide. Just a few words on exchange rate. We have started the year at the with hryvnia being extremely firm because of strong interest to Ukrainian papers from foreign investors, which have invested, which have been, let's say, which have been increasing their position in Ukrainian bonds. But basically, Corona crisis have returned the rate to previous levels of 28 hryvnias per dollar. And right now, the hryvnia keeps sliding down after some recovery. So basically, in front of us, what do we have in front of us? The 2021 year, which is going to be extremely difficult to handle for our cabinet because of the largest ever, I think, I have not checked, but it's probably largest ever budget deficit of about $10 billion, and including foreign payments of $5 billion. So without support of foreign investors, it will be tough for Ukraine to handle next year. And it is getting more complicated these days with some unprecedented rulings by constitutional court, and it's getting tougher for the government to speak with IMF. But let's move to grains. First of all, I would like to show you the complex position of managed money funds in grains market in Chicago Board of Trade. So basically, as you can see, that's a sum of corn, wheat, and soybeans total position of managed money funds. So as you can see, we are at extremely high levels. Funds are extremely long on egg markets. And this is being reflected in the whole markets across the globe, in the whole agricultural markets across the globe, including Ukraine. So let's move to corn. Here you can see the production map of corn. Ukraine is going to produce about 30 million tons this season, which is almost 6 million tons lower than last year. Some estimations are going as low as 28 million tons this year. And basically, you can see what happened during the maturation period for corn. So basically, you see that production dropped by around 50% in the whole central Ukraine. So that was because of the extended dryness during July and August, and some yields, in particular in this area of Cherkasy. Can you see the pointer?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, great. So in this area, some yields are dropping to 1 to 2 tons per hectare, down from 9 tons per hectare last year. So basically, we were the first on the market to see the crop disaster in that region. Those are pictures from our crop tour in the middle of August. And we have pointed that time we have moved the production down to 33 million tons from 40 previously. And after that, we had to cut it a number of times. And now we are at about 30 million tons. So, and this, despite of that, the production is still going to be one of the largest in history. So it's the fourth largest production in the history of Ukraine. So you might say that the problem is not there, but it's actually, but the problem is there for central Ukrainian farmers. So you have the huge separation this season with West Ukrainian and North Ukrainian farmers receiving extraordinary profits from their farming activity, with on the other side, Central Ukrainian and South Ukrainian farmers are posting huge losses, and supply defaults and defaults in front of banks and defaults in front of seeds providers and input providers, which are normally crediting farmers. So basically, the situation is completely different from west to southeast. Well, Ukraine is not big in the world production on corn side. So basically, as you can see, we are number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 in world's production, or 6 in world's production. But export share of Ukraine is quite high. So we are number 4, and we are almost in line with Brazil and Argentina. And we were actually, if dryness would not have stricken the Ukrainian corn, we would have chance to catch up to our main competitors. Excuse me. So basically, Ukraine is still going to export about 22-23 million tons this season. But the issue of the market today is that October, November, December export sales program of the trade was built considering the crop of 40 million tons and not 30 million tons. And right now we see extreme lineups which lead to constant short covering on the Ukrainian market and price rallies. So basically, this is a seasonality of Ukrainian corn export. Right now, we only have to have October to report with 1.6 million tons, which is quite a low number. But November is going to be close to 4.5 million tons already. That's what we see already in the lineups, in the vessel lineups. The seasonality works that way, that we export in October, November, December, January, we export big volumes, and we have a drop in February, which represents the January holidays when the market is getting dormant. And then we have another uptick in export in March, April, and May. So the seasonality is going to be the same this season, with only difference that November, December export will be extremely high. And I would like to show you first the export destinations breakdown for Ukrainian corn, so that you just could see the difference between last year and current season. So basically, if you look here, Ukraine accounted for 13% Ukrainian export. 13% of Ukrainian export was done to China. And right now, in October, November, that's actual shipments, including export sales, we have about 40% direct of our corn direct into China, which is actually which is nothing but confirmation of their extreme activity on corn purchases. As a result of all being said, we have a price environment which we haven't seen in past 5 to 8 years. It actually last time we have seen the flat prices rallying that much was 2012 year, when United States lost 35% of their production due to dryness. Right now, we don't have problem in the United States, but Chinese buying and extreme import interest in Ukrainian products is making the price rally looking pretty much the same as the one in 2012. So in this environment, just want to say a few more words in respect to what is happening because of this rally. So basically, about 30% of Ukrainian exportable surplus had been already sold at the prices of 150 to 175 CPT to trading houses. After that, the producers realized that they are losing the crop in some areas. And now we have the price rally, which is making up about $80 right now from bottom to top. This price rally is creating a price rally together with the crop shortfall is creating the environment when Ukrainian farmers have started to default on their forward sales to multinational trading houses. And this is the loudest issue on Ukrainian market right now. So basically, what we see is that government is softly backing farmers on their idea not to fulfill contracts. Government is not intervening with some strict, I don't know how they can do that, but with some strict actions. But the government is trying to support farmers, and that is damaging P&Ls and purchase books of trading houses across the market. So the situation is developing right now, but it's already clear that market is going to change already starting from next season. We are expecting that many of the international trading houses will ban the forward purchases for their local offices, so they will not be able to buy a pre-crop, to make pre-crop purchases from Ukrainian farmers. So basically, and probably farmers will have to move their selling activity into futures market more to be able to place some sales pre-harvest. So yeah, another, and then on the next page, you can see it's basically 20 years chart of Chinese local corn price. So as you can see, it is now at the 20 years high. So here, it's probably 17 years ago, Dalian commodity exchange has started to trade corn, and we are now at the highest level since the beginning of operation of Dalian commodity exchange, and that's basically confirming the local problem is in China, and actually legalizing the high prices across the globe, and legalizing the funds position, which I was telling on the page number 1. Yeah, so probably that's it on the corn side. I'll skip that one. So corn, the key takeaways is that corn production has dropped dramatically since last year. The market is facing a wave of defaults, and Chinese constant buying is keeping the flat prices at highest level since 2012. Let's move to wheat market. Basically, on the wheat side, the situation was not that bad as on corn. We have lost some 3 million tons in production comparing to last year, mainly because of the crop shortfall in Odessa. They were suffering extreme drought during the May and June period, which led to 50% drop in their production. Wheat market, on the wheat side, our production is pretty flat across years. Last year was a bit higher, but I would say that 25.3 million tons, it's more or less average crop for Ukrainian farmers. On the world map, Ukraine is quite far on production side and actually quite far on export side. So, but together with Russia, Ukraine is making up so-called Black Sea market. So if we put Ukraine on top of Russian bar, we can imagine that Black Sea supply is actually making up half of world supply across the export markets. So basically, Ukraine, together with Russia, are one of the most important, actually the most important origin for wheat across the globe. Moving to the export dynamics, basically Ukraine export dynamics is pretty similar to our historical ones, and it should continue to stay the same across the whole season. We don't see the reason why Ukraine have to over-export in one of the months. Right now, I have to say that right now Ukrainian wheat export is entering a kind of a dormant season when wheat is handing over leadership in logistics to corn, and with that, Ukrainian export should drop to probably 1 million tons somewhere in December, January, February, and then recover a little bit in March and April, and then go down into the end of the season and new harvest. Basically, nothing new. We should see the same picture going forward. Just wanted to show you that our main shippers, main exporters of Ukrainian wheat are basically, you see here, two Ukrainian companies, that's infrastructure-based companies, Kernel and Nibulon. And after that, you have all ABCDs, so Cargill, Dreyfus, Kovco, Sirens, Bunge, another Ukrainian, it's actually US investment, but Ukrainian company. Olam, Orset, Russian company, ADM. So all the multinational trading houses are represented here in Ukraine, and they are basically establishing, there are well-established businesses on the market like Cargill, ADM, and other big players, but we also have newcomers like Orset entering the market. Olam is since 5 years probably here. Sirens is 2 years since establishment. So most of the physical trading houses are establishing offices in the breadbasket of Europe, which is Ukraine. So basically, if you look at the destinations breakdown, nothing is changing here. So our main destination market in 2019 was Egypt, and right now it's the same. So basically, if you look at the market share in wheat, it's completely the same across the years. Dislike corn one, which I was reporting earlier. Yes, but the price has made some extremes as well as on corn this season. So basically, forward price, so starting from February, Ukrainian farmers had option to sell wheat. And basically, the price CPT, it's delivered to port price, was basically the same at $180 to $190 per ton. And then, since harvest started, Ukrainian wheat started to rally because of the problems in Russia, which were actually a little bit over-exaggerated at some point. In Russia, over-exaggerated, but in Europe, underestimated. So because when market have figured out that the problem in Europe is there, so it carried on rallying further. And right now, the last leg of this rally was produced by problems with winter wheat plantings across Russia. So basically, you have here on the on this picture on the right side, you can see the 60% of Russian winter wheat area, which is south of Russia, Rostov, Volgograd, Krasnodar, Stavropol, and some parts of central and Volga regions, which are suffering some dryness here. As you can see, it's 30-day precipitations from 1st of October to 1st of November, and they are suffering extreme drought, which is leading to very weak plantings and very uneven emergence of wheat. And this was the main news on the global wheat market since October 1st, I guess, and leading to another leg of rally. And we are, same as on corn, we are on the record high level since 2012. Yeah, so basically, just that you understand how Black Sea wheat is acting in comparison to European wheat. So that's Platts, which is Black Sea futures market, against Euronext, against Matif, which is European wheat market. So basically, during the harvest months of September, October, November, Ukraine of July, August, September, sorry, Ukrainian wheat is normally cheaper than European wheat. And then somewhere in October, November, we crossed the zero line and we moved to more positive territory, and Ukrainian and Russian wheat is becoming more expensive than European wheat. Because, well, the export is shrinking since October out of Black Sea, and the availability is becoming lower, and the buyers are getting more, let's say, aggressive in buying Black Sea wheat. So basically, that was it, I guess. So if you have any questions, please address. I will be happy to answer. And also, would like to as well introduce that our company is preparing a daily market report on Ukrainian market. And if you would like to have a free trial period, please contact Igor or organizers of the conference with your email, and we will be happy to provide you with the daily information on Ukrainian grains market.
Thank you, Volodymyr, for this insightful presentation, insightful report into what happens with corn and wheat originating from Ukraine. One question from me immediately after this presentation: what do you think about derivatives, and can derivatives actually solve the problems of farmers? And well, I'm not saying they would resolve the issue of irrigation with drought, but at least the financial problems.
Well, they cannot solve the financial problems, but this is the market where farmers can hedge their production. So basically, what do we have? What is being established right now across the Black Sea market? I was putting that at one of the slides, that since 2 years or since 3 years already, we have a Platts swap market established here across the Black Sea, Ukraine and Russian markets. So basically what is Platts is S&P Global Platts is estimating a daily price level for Ukrainian corn and Ukrainian wheat, Black Sea corn and Black Sea wheat. And you can, this is index which you can trade. It's being cleared on Chicago Merchantable Exchange. And well, actually you have no counterparty risk going through Chicago. We believe that the share of farmers' presence in this market is going to grow. Since the volumes are definitely growing. So if, well, yesterday you had about 80,000 tons traded of wheat on this market and about 40,000 tons of corn, which is probably half of the physical market which is being traded across the market in Ukraine. The open interest is about 2 million tons right now for wheat, which is showing, well, so there's the liquidity issue on this market is getting smaller and smaller. So liquidity is growing, and ABCD trading houses, US-based hedge funds are already participating in this market. And the next step is Ukrainian farmer is going to join this market to place his crops. Basically, we believe that, and also you have futures and options market here. So Ukrainian farmers, we encourage all our clients to use options as a main hedging tool for their products.
Thank you, Volodymyr. We are now proceeding further with our presentation, and I invite Olena Zyryanova to share us her views of the agricultural market and what place Ukraine actually is occupying in the global agricultural production.
Hello, everybody. Within this nice November day, it's a pleasure to share my knowledges with you, with auditorium. My name is Olena Zyryanova. I've been in trading and origination in Black Sea within 20 years already, both with small trading houses and big houses such as Bunge, Wilmar, and BTG, working as a commercial manager and administrative manager. So let me share some of my knowledges and experience with you concerning agribusiness in Ukraine. Agribusiness in Ukraine, as it was said already, is a well-known leader of Ukrainian economy. Ukraine is a home for 25–28% as per different sources of black soil. It's famous with its fertility, and our big and small farmers are sowing and harvesting, cultivating more than 32 million hectares of land. Within the last 10 years, Ukraine doubled its agri production from somewhere 48 million tons in 2010 up to almost 95 million tons in last year, 2019. And as it was already said, agriculture brought 40% of currency proceeds to the country and made 11% of the country's GDP. Main destinations for Ukrainian agricultural products were European Union countries and China. So Ukraine is having like pretty stable first ranks within the last several years as the exporter of agricultural products, and in sunflower oil it's #1, as it's well known, with 24–25% of world share, and in corn it's fourth place in the world export volume. Fourth place is barley, and wheat, it's a ninth place with a 6% share of the world's export. With 90 or 100 million tons of production annually, Ukraine will keep its leading position in the agricultural world, conquering the markets of Asia and Africa, with stable, good quality of grains, oilseeds, and byproducts, and comparatively low prices. As per the forecast of United Nations Department of Forecasting and Analytics, within the next 20 years, the population of some African countries will double, and these markets are highly attractive for Ukrainian agri-export. Ukraine faces strong competition in the Asian markets and from Latin American countries such as Brazil and Argentina. And those countries are having practically unlimited land resource for production increase. But our main demand markets are price sensitive, and Ukraine shall be very smart to compete. To decrease cost of production by clever solutions implemented and investment into the internal and external logistics for further cost decrease. So with just a bit of information, you see the slide is self-explanatory. This is the structure of agricultural lands in Ukraine. And as you see, Ukraine is destined to grow agri-crops, to process those agri-crops due to its location and natural capacities. You see that the Ukrainian Land Fund occupies more than 5% of the territory of Ukraine. And the agricultural land occupies more than 70% of the territory of Ukraine. So the industry is still under fast development. Big agri-holdings and small farmers are using all modern technologies to optimize the cost and increase the yields. Also, they are looking for the new destination markets and niches to fill. One of the discussion among of the leading specialists of the agri market is production of GMO crops. Ukraine is officially a non-GMO country in terms of agri production, but so-called gray market of GMO seeds exists and traces of GMO can be found despite the restrictions. Ukraine needs to decide which way to take, either to accept GMO products and participate in the global GMO market, optimizing costs of production, or Ukraine declares GMO-free production and should find its buyers relatively. Also in Ukraine, within the last years, organic production started to become very popular. And as of last year, 2019, it was registered more than 280 hectares under organic production. And within the couple of last years, it added more than 40,000 hectares. So Ukraine is still looking for its markets and is still looking for its niches. And the industry is fastly growing and developing. So a couple of words of the on the topics which are co-joined to agribusiness. It's agri-logistics and agri-technological development. Agri-logistics. Within the last season, Ukraine has transported statistically by railway more than 39 million tons of grains and byproducts. So relatively it was carried by rivers 5.5 million tons and by trucks somewhere 17 million tons. Together with internal logistics, which is rapidly developing in the within as of today, the export logistics, which is as per different sources, makes somewhere 72 million tons of annual transshipment capacity transshipment is increasing as well. So to increase the export potential, Ukraine is trying to expand its infrastructure, and the state has adopted a strategy to expand this export potential by transferring the ports into concessions. That the ports of Kherson seaport and Olvia in Nikolaev have been transferred to concession last year and became the first investment projects of this type. This is in parallel to the private grain terminals building and reconstruction. So the investors under this concession agreements should invest somewhere like 3 billion hryvnias into Olvia terminal and 1.5 billion hryvnias into Kherson commercial seaport. The next concession tender is planned in the port of Chernomorsk, which is ex-Ilychovsk. And the investors may be interested in a container terminal and the ferry crossing over there. After this, the seaports of Mariupol, Berdyansk, and Odessa may be considered to be transferred into concession as well. So this first step was pretty successful and encourages the state into further steps on concession transfers. Also, agribusiness. It's like one of the spheres where agribusiness is actively investing. In fact, this is agro-technologies. In Ukraine, Ukraine is well known for its innovations in agricultural sector, and Ukrainian agri-technical companies are developing modern solutions at improving traditional farming. So already today, we know that some farmers are using drones in agriculture, and this is one of the most promising areas of application of this technology, since it can be effectively used for planning and controlling of stages of agricultural production. In addition, GPS installation and usage are very popular method among Ukrainian agri holdings, big Ukrainian agri holdings. They allow to do a lot of things that seemed incredible until recently, and using this system, they can control many parameters. This is safety and analytics. First, those systems can locate the routes and the movements of all equipment. They can control fuel consumption during parking, during working hours. They can fuel consumption per 1 hectare of cultivation. Control time of entry of the techniques into the field and exit from the field, the area of all the processed fields. And in addition, it's analytical work like mapping fields and import from the other mapping programs, keeping records of history of fields cultivation, crop rotation. So this is already actively used in farming in Ukraine. In addition to those technologies, there are some examples of IT products introduced by Ukrainian agricultural companies. For example, it's MeteoTrack, a product which is monitoring the weather condition, planning technological operation and the agricultural production. And Profit, a comprehensive system for monitoring and managing the process of animal feeding on meat and dairy farms. So the huge potential of Ukraine agro-industrial complex make it a key economy sector in terms of investment, both for domestic investors and foreign investors. Within the period from 2014 up to 2018, it was invested around $11 billion into this area. And only within the last year, it was invested around $2 billion US. So foreign investors are opting for this agribusiness in Ukraine because it allows a relatively fast return and stable conditions despite the unforeseeable factors of weather, as it was this year, in fact. And this year, the volume of investment may drop significantly due to land market opening the next year and pandemic lockdowns. So
thank you, Olena. One question from me before we proceed with land market reform. What do you think will be the decisive factor for Ukraine to win competition against foreign and against other producers. Will this be efficient irrigation technologies or something else? Maybe investment in infrastructure, or maybe maybe all of these combined.
Yes, exactly. This is the kind of several bunch of factors, and most of them are related to politics, unfortunately. In my view, the major drivers is, first of all, it's the stability and predictability of all the politics inside of the country and all the export regulations. Or better to say, no regulations at all and no interference at all from the government, as it may be this year, following this factor of high price rally and defaults on forward contracts. Also, the state should provide conditions for further investments into transshipment logistics, into internal logistics, which is currently still a pain for the participants of the market and bottleneck in a way. So there should be right political decisions and support. Also, land market, which will, this is very important, as it will allow the farmers to further invest into the land, further, for example, to build this irrigation system, to use more technologies to lower the cost of production and like increase the yields and optimize their logistics and their costs. And also, in my view, the black market should be eliminated. So the government should work on black market as well. So to make the competition between the market participants even, and rules of the competition even as well. So
thank you, Olena. This is very insightful information about this. And of course, the land market was mentioned as one of the key factors which will affect the productivity of Ukraine. And now I pass the floor to Natalia Kushniruk, who will explain what is this land market reform, what it means for investors, and when to expect it.
Mm-hmm. Hello, everyone. Yes, thank you, Ihar, for this introduction. I would pleased to brief you about the land market and what we should expect once the land market is opened. So just a couple of points. Olena already mentioned what the land market is, but I would like to stress a little bit more just to give you some numbers. So in Ukraine, we have almost 42.7 hectares of agricultural land, of which black soils are 17 million, which accounts for 8% of the world's reserve. So this is incredible number. So and the moratorium, which has been in place for as long as 19 years already, it covers 70% of the territory of Ukraine and enable 7 million of landowners to buy land. So once moratorium is lifted, it will enable those landowners to sell and to change agricultural use of land for commercial agricultural production, for personal farming, and to sell and change designated use of land shares from 1st July 2021. So during this first stage of the land reform, only Ukrainians will be able to buy land, and only within the limit of 100 hectares per person. Just next slide, please. Yeah, this is some overview of agricultural land over the regions. Next slide. This is what I just mentioned about the who are the permitted buyers and when the land and who can buy and sell the land. And the next slide. Yeah, banks. So banks will be eligible to buy agricultural land without any limitation regarding the area. Unfortunately, only through enforcement of mortgaged property. So banks will not become, so to say, full owners of land because they must alienate the land via auctions within 2 years after acquisition. So during the second stage of the land reform from 2024, the companies which are owned by Ukrainian nationals or and registered in Ukraine, they will be also eligible to buy land. However, the maximum area which one person can buy or the company will be limited to 10,000 hectares. So unfortunately, the foreigners are not eligible to buy land. And according to the land reform, they will be allowed to buy only subject to positive approval by a pan-Ukrainian referendum. Unfortunately, we don't know when this referendum will be set up and whether it will be held generally. So another questions which we receive from our clients relate to the sale price and whether there are any limitations regarding the sale price. So indeed, there are some statutory limitations regarding the sale price for the land shares. So the sale price for the land shares cannot be less than its normative monetary valuation. And across the region, monetary valuation varies from $700 to $1,200 per hectare. So this is basically the minimum price, but the average price, we believe, and the economists say that the average price would vary from $1,500 to $2,000 per hectare. Obviously, the actual sale price will depend on many factors such as location, quality of land, any restrictions available on the land plot. So this is obviously all depend on different factors. And the next slide, but we can judge from the experience of our neighboring country, which basically shows that once the land market is opened, the price continue to grow. And for instance, in Bulgaria, the price increased 4 times over 9 years after opening of the market. And for instance, in Poland, the land price increased 6 times over 10 years after the market was opened. Then the other question is whether, yeah, the next slide, please. Whether there are who will basically who will check the whether the particular person acquires the land within those limits and whether it is eligible to buy land. So it is basically within the responsibilities of the notaries to check that, because any transaction which involve land sale must be certified and signed in front of the notary. Notaries have access to all the registers and they will be able to check the limits and the ultimate beneficial owners of the companies and whether a particular person can buy land or not. So this will be within their responsibility. If though the person acquires land exceeding those limits, such person should alienate the land, even must alienate the land within 1 year. Otherwise, the court may confiscate the land plot. Yes, Ihor, I'm happy
Thank you. Thank you, Natalia. Natalia, 2 immediate questions from me. First of all, what is actually happening in the Constitutional Court with this land reform, and what is the expectation regarding this? And secondly, if the constitutional courts basically does not invalidate this or declares unconstitutional, what is your expectation about pricing in Ukraine? Will it follow the same path as in Poland or maybe other country?
So yeah, thank you for bringing these hot questions. Basically, indeed, the constitutional court should review this our new law, which basically shifts that basically will consider constitutionality of this land market law. Hopefully. And our expectations are that the court will not terminate this law, and the land reform will be still launched next year. So we very much hope that this will be the case. Unfortunately, we still believe that there will not be any rush in acquisitions of the land plot and with the alienation of those. Because for a number of reasons, both market reasons and political reasons. So just as I mentioned, generally the land reform was implemented in very cut down versions. As I mentioned, the foreigners are not allowed to enter land market, and basically our expectation was that they will bring much of demand to the market. And the second reason is that basically because of some restrictions, as I mentioned, of at the first stage 100 hectares per person, it will not allow to form an efficient land bank. And regarding the prices, as I mentioned, we and the economists believe that the price once the moratorium is lifted will be around $1.5 to $2,000 per hectare. And only 5 to 10% of the landowners are willing to put the land for sale once the moratorium is lifted. According to economists, another 5 to 7% of the landowners will be willing to sell the land before 2024. So we hope that obviously the demand will increase, and from 2024, once the limits will be increased to 10,000 hectares per person, and hopefully till then we will have some answers regarding the referendum and whether or not foreigners will be allowed to acquire land in Ukraine. I do much hope that they will be somehow eligible to buy land. This definitely will increase demand and price.
Thank you, Natalia. Thank you for these very insightful comments. And now we are proceeding with our presentation to Orest Matvichuk. Orest will tell us a few words about financing opportunities for land acquisition in Ukraine and for generally financing. And also we have one question from our participants, from Sergei Yakhnovich from Ukrbank, BNP Paribas Group, regarding the situation with defaults and what to do with those defaults which are currently happening with the forward contracts in the market. And so I will ask Orest to comment on this as well. Orest?
Thank you, Igor. Hi, everyone. I hope you are enjoying our webinar so far, and I'll try to be quick because we hit almost 1 hour of presenting different topics. I believe those are very insightful. So briefly introducing myself, I'm a lawyer at CMS Kyiv office, focusing, basically I'm trying to wear 2 hats, focusing on transactional finance, banking finance, and also agribusiness, covering international trade of commodities, including agri-commodities, under GAFTA-FOSFA regimes, and all related matters surrounding supply chain in agri sector. So in my presentation, I will cover, I'll try to be brief, not to bother you with much legalish details. I'll cover continue topic about land market, specifically the possibility to use land for financing purposes. I mean, for attracting financing by producers. And we'll cover what's happening in terms of transactional activity within the market, if I have time. This is our second webinar on Agri webinar, and after the first webinar, one of our client, a friend of mine, asked me, so after 2021, you will have the possibility to buy. And I said, yes, some will have possibility to buy. And he said, no, you will have the possibility to buy a land. So will you do that? I was like, wow, it's actually an interesting question. And I never thought that if this is a, you know, in terms of personal finance, if it's an opportunity or not. And after thinking about that, I thought, well, maybe this is a good thing, especially if you looked carefully at Natalia's slides and judging from the prices rises at our neighboring countries, this might be something to consider for you as well. But nevertheless, my personal view that land market question was very much politicized, which obviously is bad. At the same time, I think the government didn't take much of activity in terms of explaining to wider popularity pros and cons, I mean benefits and shortfalls in terms of buying and opening the land market. For instance, if you compare with Brexit, if you happen to be in London within that period, it was striking to see comparisons of voting for or against it. I'm not saying about the outcome. I'm just comparing the approach government was used. So as you can feel from presentation of my colleague Natalia, the land market is pretty much in the shape that will be very limited, and much investors expected something more, especially foreign investors and financiers. And wearing my first hat as a transactional finance lawyer, I think because of those limitations, and as Natalia mentioned, the only possible way to finance agri producers would be available for Ukrainian banks. Whether the market will be active and that will be really possible will much depends on Ukrainian banks, on their appetite and on the liquidity on the market, as you probably all understand, because of the restriction. The main restriction that will be that the banks after the foreclosure on their collateral land would must to sell it within 2 years. Well, I mean, even with this such restriction, it is worth to mention this point because we experience in the market, and you can see on the slide the possibility that and we saw in the past when they were used so-called double-decker structures. If you don't know what is that, it's basically when IFIs were providing financing to Ukrainian banks within some programs and allowing Ukrainian banks to on-land financing to local producers. So this option would probably still be possible. I think I took part in many events on land, but no one mentioned about possibility of taking part by Ukrainian banks in syndication with even with foreign banks. Probably again because of the limitations and regulation, it still may be difficult to do, and probably in large scale it will be possible after 2024. But still, if, for instance, national bank, I mean, Ukrainian central would be interested to develop this direction, it may be easier to amend relevant regulation and to allow Ukrainian banks to take part in syndication with foreign banks. Well, this is just we are brainstorming the possibility, but so far, again, we have that Ukrainian banks will be only able to enforce and to provide financing for the purposes of Ukrainian agri producers. Next slide, please. So, yes, next slide. This was already mentioned by Natalia. If you ask what type of security would be available, well, the first and obvious point is a well-known mortgage. It's a standard instrument, and again, it's well-known and easy understandable within the market. Second is a pledge of rights under relevant lease agreements. This may potentially expand the amount of clients of the bank for the banks and for possibility to attract financing. And the third one, the security trust, is quite new instrument within the Ukrainian legal system. It was I think become effective just recently, and the issue here is that it contemplates the transfer of title to the security holder from the outset, so it probably will not be used much in the market. Next slide, please. Yeah, so there are a few other slides, quite detailed slides in terms of land financing and major issues and risks pre-financing stage, during financing stage, and post-financing stage. I'll not go into much details, but you will be able to, you will have the presentation and you will take a look yourself. But in terms of my next part, I think I will just move ahead to the question that we got from the audience in terms of defaults in the market. So I think Volodymyr, our first guest speaker, briefly touched this issue. First thing that defaults touched. Obviously, the parties on the forward contracts, then the banks that were financing operations of the producers and the companies involved in trading, and obviously seed productions. There was like more philosophical question: do you think it's a good or bad? I mean, all defaults. I mean, as a commercial lawyer, all defaults are bad because it interferes the operation, the life of the contract, the life of your business, and but ultimately you need to deal because sometimes it's objective, sometimes it's subjective. But as mentioned already by Volodymyr, there is some soft measure used by the government to tackle the defaults, and even it affected the prices. I think my personal view that interference of the government in a personal business always bad, and such things should be handled and managed by the parties involved. And if you talk about the whole chain, the obvious advice, commercial advice, would be not advice, but suggestion is to restructure. But obviously, all depends on the particular matters of the deal and what you have at hand. I think I saw the figure that it's around 20 or 30% of defaults in the market currently. And what will happen? I mean, yes, I think the first thing is discussion. So the parties should sit on the table and try to discuss and work around what they have to do before enforcing. Obviously, because going to court would be long and unpredictable, with obviously unpredictable outcome. So again, we as lawyers will be happy to assist anyone, any party with the suggestions what to do, and what would be the better approach from the legal perspective. So in terms of transactional activity, I will not cover much details here, but as mentioned by our guest speaker Olena, there was quite active deals within the maritime market, and especially acquisitions of maritime assets this year. I will cover only this year because there were at least 4 deals that were remarkable and well known. First, it's actually the private partnership deals in relation to Olvia port and Kherson port. It's interesting because in relation to Olvia, there was an actual foreign investor. It's a Qatari Terminals that won the tender. So in relation to Kherson, it was Risoil, a well-known player within the market. In terms of other deals, we saw the completion of acquisition of majority stake by DP World in relation to this container terminal, and we saw that Glencore acquired every terminal in Mykolaiv. We believe this is a good sign. and we see that such assets are quite there is appetite from foreign investors, and we see from our clients interest for new assets. And we think that, for instance, next year the trend will remain. And when we have these deals, obviously there is a need for financings and obviously some related matters would develop as well. So I think I was brief, but I hope you found this insightful. But if you have any questions, just you can still ask us here, or you can use our contact details and ask later. Either in relation to default or about Ukrainian agri market, entering into Ukrainian agri market, and what to do within Ukraine and externally. Thank you all.
Orest, thank you for this brief presentation and for answering the question of Sergey regarding defaults. Always, you know, you have to trust your lawyer, and we as lawyers can find ways how to deal with defaults. So I will not speak in detail about this, but we know the ways, how legal ways, how to do it. But one more question to Orest regarding financing opportunities. We have seen that actually in the EU this year, there is a huge interest to green projects and to everything green, to ESG criteria, and there is a Green Deal which was declared by the Europeans. So what do you think, how this green tendency affects financing opportunities, and whether Ukrainian borrowers have something to do with this?
Thank you, Igor, for such a great question. Green project, green financing, sustainable financing, I think it's a hype throughout the world, especially as you mentioned, EU, the way those so-called ESG, environment, social and governance principle already put into the relevant regulations, and those are, as far as I know, becomes mandatory for certain banks to use. But even though if we are not talking about mandatory approach, such the general the general feel is globally we want to reduce emissions and overall negative impact on our environment, and many financiers and investors are looking and requiring companies they are investing or providing money to comply or adhere or to achieve certain thresholds in terms of reducing gas emissions and negative impact. And in Ukraine, it's not that widespread, but what we see, for instance, when IFIs like EBRD or international financial corporations that are still very active within the Ukrainian market, they have standard provisions in relation to environmental things, and generally requiring their borrowers to adhere. Why do we think it's an opportunity for borrowers? First thing, whenever you are trying or actually achieving the goal that put in front of you, that would directly impact the cost of your financing. In simple words, the financing would be cheaper for you. Just to give you an example, just to give all participants the example, we worked on the deal where EBRD financed the acquisition of railway hoopers for transportation of grains, and that deal actually it was the loan to internationally well-known commodities trader from ABCD Group, and the deal was actually qualified as a green or sustainable deal, and because of that they were able to secure the lower level of cost and percent that they needed to pay. And it was simple because they acquired, they were supposed to buy a new wagons, and it was first they were able to achieve it was I don't recall if it was the production they were produced, or it may be there was less cream in terms of what the wagons were producing. But nevertheless, this deal qualified on such a simple thing, and it was very positive for the border. Thank you. I hope they addressed the question.
Thank you, Orest. As we are slowly running out of time, I wanted to actually pose possibly the last question to all the presenters who are presenting today. So my question is, what is your expectation for 2021? Do you remain optimistic about Ukraine and that Ukrainian agricultural market will continue to develop, or there will be more problems, more bottlenecks, more constitutional courts decisions, or something like this? So let's start in the same order as we presented. So Volodymyr, what is your expectation for the next year?
Well, the biggest issue is, of course, political turbulence. But the second one is we cannot foresee what the government will do and what the constitutional court will do, and the parliament and president, all of them. But the thing which is dependent on industry itself is fulfillment of obligations. I still believe that the share of defaults will be quite limited, despite it goes right now loud in all the media, in all the ag media. I think it's probably exaggeration of the problem. And from what I hear from trading houses is that most of the contracts are being fulfilled. So I hope that multinational trading houses will not have to close the forward marketing opportunity, pre-crop marketing opportunity for Ukrainian farmers. Otherwise, Ukrainian farmers will get badly damaged without having option of pre-crop sale. They will be badly damaged with necessity to sell crop at the harvest time, which is the most pressured time price-wise. So basically, Ukrainian farmers will have to need to think on what they are doing right now, and to hold to contract obligations and not to spoil the market for themselves for years and years in front of us. Basically, that's the biggest decision which they have to take right now. It's not easy to let go millions. Well, basically, the volume of defaults which we estimate right now is creating $120 million market difference, which will be borne by the trading houses consolidated position, and this will lead, if it happens, it will lead to the complete shutdown of pre-crop market here in Ukraine, which is damaging not only farmers' business but also our business, because we would like to have this opportunity to market the crop for our farmers prior the harvest comes.
Thank you, Volodymyr.
Thank you.
This is definitely optimistic and confirms the old Roman principle of pacta sunt servanda. Olena, what do you think? Are you optimistic for the next year?
Yes, I'm pretty optimistic despite this political turbulence, which we have not been able even predict 2 weeks ago within our first webinar. We didn't even imagine that this is possible, that the Constitutional Court is able to cancel land reform, or at least consider this possibility. But from my side, I'm pretty sure that agricultural sector, as a least regulated in Ukraine, is going to develop further, considering market rules And I'm hoping very much that this land reform will take place and the small farmers will be having the possibility of cheap financing to develop more production of gardens, of vegetables, of fruits. So to make the diversification in the agribusiness, first of all, in the short term. Also, I'm pretty optimistic on the further stage of development of agribusiness in Ukraine. It's a deep processing, it's a processing of rapeseeds, it's deep processing of corn, it's ethanol plants in the end. So yes, I hope very much that in agribusiness sector, Ukraine will stay on the first ranks in the world.
Thank you, Elena. Natalia, what is your expectation of next year? Land market reform or more constitutional court actions?
Ihre, I remain to be optimistic. Yeah, I still believe that the land reform will be launched next year, and we will see the first land deals on the market since starting from 1st July. Obviously, we don't expect hundreds or thousands of deals after the moratorium is lifted, because I believe the people will be checking the prices. So once the prices are stable, I believe there won't be much land transactions. And the notaries, they will also need to get some subordinate legislation before they can certify land deals smoothly. So my general belief is that we will see more land deals starting from 2024. And I very much hope, as I mentioned, that the Constitutional Court will confirm that the land reform complies with the Constitution, and we will have the land market opened and operating starting from next year.
Thank you, Natalia. Orest, now it's your turn to tell us about expectations. And I also see that actually we have touched upon the very hot topics of defaults, and even our participants are actually commenting on this. And we see a comment from Antoine Bouison from Soufflet that this whole situation with defaults will result in actually decrease of price for the next season and other consequences. So Orest.
Yes, thank you for Antoine for such a question. And I mean, the consequences are always there would be shortfall definitely if it's a big amount of defaults, and there would definitely be impact, as was mentioned by Volodymyr. And there were myriads of sectors. First thing that there will be the parties involved. Second, the banks that are financing, and then the possibility of financing your operations even with forward contracts, because it is well known known fact that forwarding contracts were used by many producers as a tool to financing their operations because of the limitation and cost of the bank products. I think if we talk about interference of the state, the only thing that I would suggest for the state to take for the next year, first is to try to actually launch the insurance market. Because first of all, if insurance market would work properly, potentially it would less affect the financial side of the problem. I mean, banks and traders. And second, because we anticipate the launch, also interesting fact that from summer 21, the derivatives market, and everyone anticipate. And if, for instance, Volodymyr mentioned about I think foreign products, but those would be available only for well-established and big producers with their foreign holding structures. But for medium and small companies, I think if there would be a possibility to hedge their risks locally, that would be a huge win for everyone. I mean, I'm talking about the new capital markets law and the possibility of launching the actual agri-commodities derivatives within Ukraine. Obviously, there are a lot of things has to be done up until summer 2021, but we have the framework, and if people, government and market participants put all efforts together, the market may be there, and it may be possible to use the relevant tools locally. If overall, I'm remain optimistic. Was going to say pessimistic, but no, optimistic. Any default would need to find their solution, and the market, I think, so much worse. I mean, worse consequences and hits in the past, and this is not the key one. And I would not exaggerate the situation. At the same time, I agree that any interference by the state would obviously damage the foreign investors, because obviously people look at their contracts and they anticipate what to do, and anticipate based on that. And if there is interference, and one-sided interference, that would be damaging to everyone, I believe. And the hope for the future is obviously rule of law. And development of Ukrainian legal system in that side. At the same time, the presence of ABCD companies demonstrate that even with some difficulties, if you have like good lawyers, good team, execution team, good traders, it's possible to manage risks and still be profitable. So it's not as bad as it may seem. So yes, we are lawyers here to advise on any aspects and to help to mitigate and manage those risks. That's actually our work.
Thank you, Orest. Thank you all the participants of the webinar. I hope you found our analysis and our presentations helpful for your purposes. After this webinar, obviously, we will share the slides and the recording of this webinar, so you can share with your colleagues. But always feel free to ask us questions. We are here ready to respond to them. And obviously, to conclude, I would say that Ukraine is and will remain the agricultural powerhouse. You have had about a few problems that Ukraine needs to resolve. We all expect that land reform will happen in earnest, and there will not be any impediments for its implementation in the near future, and this will further promote the development of Ukrainian agricultural market. And we also see that all the participants, all our speakers, are quite optimistic about agricultural markets. So we will see hopefully many deals in this market in the coming year. And I hope that everyone is safe. And thank you for participation in our webinar. Thank you very much. And this concludes our webinar today.